I always played in the attic at my grandmother's house. As a child, I loved playing with my dad's old toys. I pushed plastic cars around the floor until my hands were black with dust. Now I just come up here to look at everything everyone's left behind. In the corner of the attic was a small dresser. I pulled out each of the stiff drawers and glanced inside. The top two held nothing special, but the bottom one, you see, the bottom one was filled to the brim with loose photographs. I sat down on the floor and I grabbed a handful. The majority were faded childhood snapshots of my dad and uncles from the 70s. I smiled at the mop of brown hair he used to have and the bell bottoms that they all wore. I dipped my hand in again and again and again, pulling out more and more photos. I studied each one of them carefully. The closer I got to the bottom of the drawer, the more black and white photos emerged. I saw my grandmother long before she was married, as beautiful as a pinup. There were lots of shots of her with an older sister, Great Aunt Helena, elegantly draped in furs. I did know that the two had lived together after our great grandfather died. Finally, at the very bottom of the drawer, I came across an unmarked envelope. Inside the envelope was a handful of very small, brittle photographs. The top one showed my grandmother in her early teens with a slightly older Aunt Helena. The next photo featured a man in a chair. He looked familiar, possibly a relative. I flipped through them. There were multiple shots of him in the chair, all with Aunt Helena. But there was something odd about them. They had a staged quality about them that seemed unnatural. I frowned and held one of the pictures up close to my face. Holy shit, I said, flinging the pictures down to the ground. I had been right. They were all posed. From what I could tell, he was tied to the chair. Helena started small, cutting off an ear here, a finger there, holding each grisly trophy up. Then they got worse. The next few showed a hat pin in each eye, a slit on the face, a bloody stump where a foot should have been. Each photo was progressively worse than the last, until Helena was posing with a corpse. Dumbfounded, I gathered them up and went downstairs. I felt sick. My grandmother was sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee. I held out the envelope. Who is this, Nana? She took the grimy photos from my hand and thumbed through them. After a moment, she handed them back to me. Someone who hasn't hurt little girls in a long, long time, she said. Shocked, I stared blankly at the tiny snapshots. I was still confused. Did you know about these, Nana? Of course, she paused. I was the one holding the camera, she said.